hear me? Welcome to the very first of these FASS Lunchtime Seminar Series, designed to introduce to you the most current research being conducted by our research fellows and graduate students. It's a wonderful initiative by the FASS to introduce to students and to professors the range and diversity and real interest of the kinds of research going on across the faculty. So this first session is going to be on culture and religion. Next week we'll have something on culture and art, where one of our graduate students from Chinese Studies will present on Feng Zikai. So we're looking forward to that. There'll be other very interesting talks coming up on health, on economics, on political science. Every week we'll have a chance to learn what the most current research is going on around FASS. So,
hello, good afternoon. I'm Dr. Chan from Department of Chinese Studies. Actually, what I have mentioned about the Cantonese Ge Tai is not 九彩城隍庙. It's in Shajiang Wansanfu de Ci. It's near Hougang actually, because that is the only Cantonese temple which is still survived in Singapore, and obviously because I can only speak Cantonese, that's why I always go there. And I'm very honored here to be presenting my topic, Lunar Settlement in Singapore, Hungry Ghost Festival and a Contesting Space. Actually, this is a very preliminary research topic for my project. Today is the 15th of Lunar Settlement. It's a bit in Cantonese, we call 大家利是 to say this kind of topic here as a contesting space. But actually this, I want to show a few pictures to you. First, this Ge Tai, please take a look at the pictures here. It's a very boisterous stage performance found during the Lunar Settlement, and which is also an indispensable part and a very important element and unique culture of the Hungry Ghost Festival found in Singapore. It's so famous that even they got the Ge Tai Sing Li Liang, a kind of competition in TV channel for the Ge Tai singer. And here is 2 days ago, Professor Dean and I went to the Guchayu Changhua Miao, somewhere near McPherson, MRT, and you can pay attention at the lighting effects and all the sound. I can't show you the sound effects, but you can show the stage effect. It's just like concert. It's very hard for me to imagine that it's just next to the temple we have a concert here. Which is really amazing. But on the other hand, you can still see the picture here. This is a Hungry Ghost Festival ceremony. Happened last week in Chinatown Complex, 流切水中心. Remember that. And you can see the altar here, this picture. The altar here, and also all the region instruments. Actually, they are all placed in the hawker center. The table, everything is just a very normal hawker center. And here for the photo, you can also see the rousing circulations of the whole Chinatown complex by the Cantonese dancers priests. So the whole building is actually transformed into a scared space temporarily, and those above pictures, whatever is the festival or the Ge Tai or the rituals, which show the two sides of the Hungry Ghost Festival ceremony in contemporary Singapore. Yet, what interests me is why those kind of activities still happen in this specific kind of format, both very modern elements and very traditional elements also. For me, there should be a reason behind all those region activities and rituals. Why they would perform in this way? How come the Hungry Ghost Festival would be presented in the form of Ge Tai and at the same time the region's rituals find it here? Those questions make me think about the invisible or even the visible hand of the state power. To what extent did the performance and the rituals are consequences of the state policy? And what is the role played by those performers and the priests? So the research awareness for me, actually is still a preliminary research topic for me. I have to, I told Professor Dean that I have to adjust this more because I want to focus more on the Cantonese group Cantonese Taoist priests and the Cantonese Taoist rituals in Singapore. However, this can still be seen as the basic research awareness for me. Is looking at the interactions between the state power and the everyday life of the ordinary Singaporeans by looking at Hungry Go festivals as a case studies. What more interesting is, or interests me is the major core value of those kind of performers or the priests. I'm thinking they are searching for their own cultural identity or their own self, the particular kind of Chineseness. Particularly in the Cantonese group, is this kind of Cantonese Singaporean identity. Instead of, I think it's very different from what the state proposed at the Chinese in Singapore. Because they still speak Cantonese during the rituals and practice, they still very eager to use Cantonese as the languages they use. And more important is, according to the census in 2015, in Singapore nowadays, there are only 16% of the Chinese, they still speak dialect at home. But for the Cantonese group, there are nearly 40% of the Cantonese people, they speak Cantonese at home. Which is, when you compare this number with other dialect group, you can find the huge difference. And I really want to know how come this kind of Cantonese is still so strong. That's why all of those kind of questions or finding interested me to find out the reason behind. And this made me to think about the research here. So in a more specific context, the sub-questions for me to ask in this project is, what is the relationship between the state power and the everyday life practice of the public? Second, what kind of changes did the Hungry Go Festival underwent in the past year? What I mean of the past year is from 1965 when Singapore got independent up to now. In the past 54 years, what was happening and how those kind of changes fundamentally or temporarily make changes on the Cantonese group, and how the socio-economic policy adopted by the colonial government, before 1965, and even later by the PAP government affected the format of those rituals and practice mentioned before. So, actually I want to introduce all the theoretical framework or the major funding for my research to you, but because of the time limit, that's why I will make it very quick. Most likely my research is going on two tracks. For the one hand, I will looking at Hungry Go Festival as a contesting space. I have to look at the works of Professor Brandon on the relationship between the colonial government authorities and the ordinary inhabitants by using the concept of power and space, which is more likely, because I study cultural, I was from the cultural study background, even though I'm now in Chinese department, but I'm more like to look at the state power, which is more or less influenced by Foucault or Deleuze, and how those kind of state power intervened the daily life or ordinary life of the Cantonese Singaporean in today's world. Of course, for the time period, I would like to look at the festival. And second, I would also like to see how the state narrative of the PAP government became the dominant and the solely narrative fund in Singapore. But on the other hand, those kind of narrative is not rigid. Actually, it's a bit, for me, it's just like an action and reaction relations. The state may make some actions on the ordinary people or the public, but at the same time, they have other reactions towards those kind of state policy. And this kind of action and reaction relationships make their identity different or specific in a particular time and period. And this is what I want to focus. And of course, for the hidden or for the ultimate goal, I would like to see how their cultural identity change in different period. So I'm going to skip all this, and as I mentioned, the second major argument or the second major track for me is how the Hungry Go Festival shows as a diasporic Chinese identity, which I have mentioned that is more focused on the Cantonese-ness, which I find that during the ritual and practice or during the Ge Tai performance. Because for me, since the 20th century, there are huge changes underwent in Singapore, which also affect the region side of the Chinese community. However, I more want to focus is the complexity or those kind of special events like Hungry Go Festival or funeral, which Dr. Thye mentioned to me the day before. I can focus more on those kind of events by looking at those events to find out the cultural identity again. So on the other hand, it's just like an external force from the state power, but it's also the internal force of the priests or the Daoist group themselves. And this kind of actions and reactions, I would like to put it this side, created a kind of special Cantonese identity for them. Okay, actually 10 minutes have passed already, but I want to say one more stuff is, actually there should be one more layer for me to understand the region, which is from the perspective of nostalgia or from the perspective of cultural heritage. Because when I visited the Chinatown complex last week, and Uncle told me a story about how Chinatown looked like in 1960s. When I asked him why he stayed at the hawker center and listened to the, we Cantonese we call it La Molo, because they all say La Molo, that's why we call La Molo. He told me that this reminds him of the old times in Chinatown, which is like a kind of memory for him. So, because I have to do my QE next year, if I'm not going back home to join the protest and stay in Singapore, then I will definitely, I will definitely have to do the QE exam next year then. But before that, I try to conceptualize and make all those kind of theoretical framework more clearly. And okay, I think this is a bit rushed, but this is what I want to do in the following years. Okay, 12 minutes already. Okay, thank you so much for your listening.
Please join me in welcoming Ms. Kang Minji. She's a Korean PhD student here working with Dr. Hue in the Department of History. She studied in Busan University's Department of Foreign Languages, where she learned Burmese and has done work in Burma, in Yangon, in Hangan, the famous site there, and in Mandalay. And we're very happy to have a chance to hear about her research on the Shwedagon and other economic organizations supporting Buddhism in Myanmar. So,
the dissertation, the title of my dissertation is The Economy, the Dimensions of Theravada Buddhism in British Burma. So yeah, first of all, I want to talk about the background of my research. So, and can you see that the picture well? So it led me to the beginning my PhD research, which I found during my field work for a thesis of the master's degree. This shows the list of donation and the expenditure for doing the renovation and maintenance of the temples. And actually, you can find those records open to the public at temples throughout the Myanmar. So I've never seen them in other Buddhist countries. So yeah, even the Korea and Japan and China, the Southeast Asia countries. That's why I thought this was a very unique feature of the Buddhism in Myanmar. Okay, so I'm very interested in the opening accounts of temples. What you see on the screen is a book that documents the history of temples. The Temple of Myanmar, they record their own history and then they publish and then they sell it. So this is called the mine in Burmese. So the temple regularly updates and reprints of this book. According to the statistical data from the mine, between 2016 and 2018, and Mahamuni Temple is located in the Mandalay. So the amount only for the renovation and the maintenance of the temple is over the $2.5 million US. It is huge in the comparison with the Myanmar economy. Some people make donations in cash, or for the purpose of the repairing the certain parts of the temple. The list included the details of the many donations or who made the donations and recasting the specific the construction or the repairs. So therefore, I have the three facts. So first of all, the opening the financial report of the pagoda to the public. Secondly, the enormous amounts of the donation and expenditure in a year. And last one is the imaging the vigorous economic activities around the pagoda. So finally, I have this research question. In my case, also it's a preliminary steps of my research. So I will make up more the research question. So the first one is who managed the donation of the pagoda, and secondly, who uses the pagoda as a property. Just the monks never deal with the cash or the property. They can do that. And the third one is when does the golf god appear, and then the fourth, how does the golf god manage the property. So according to my research question, I considered the target the areas of my research target. So first in Myanmar, there are 3 nationwide famous temples. So among them, I choose 2 temples where Coca has existed since the British rule. As shown on the map, as Myanmar in turn has come under the British control. So through the 3 Anglo-Burmese wars, Burma handed over the first black part, and the second the slash marked part, and then the last white part to the Britain. So the upper side, this yellow star color, that is the Mandalay, was the capital of the last traditional dynasty. And the last one is the Yangon was in the limelight as a new economic city at that time. In other words, this is the 2 places most strongly influenced by the British government. That is why I thought it was necessary to look at areas closely related to the British rule. So I choose only 2 in Yangon and Mandalay. And also they are representing the upper and lower Myanmar. So the name of the temple is the Mahamuni and the Shwe-Rigon. Actually, pagoda means the Buddhist temples in Burmese. So next one is the emergence of the Coca. So in Myanmar, as I mentioned, most of temples have their history books, so called the Mine. According to their Mine, the Coca at Shwe-Rigon Pagoda was born after the British rule by a devout Buddhist to maintain and protect the temple. So you can see that actually I read from the contents from that book. So very important person for the Shwe-Rigon Pagoda is the Coca, so Utang Lei, and then they made up the member of the Coca the 1861 and in 1862. Also, finally, the 1885, the 29th April, the British government determined the 9 members of the Coca officially, and also they gave them the empowerment to manage the finance directly only in pagoda. So they only reported 2 times a year from that time. Okay. This picture shows the first 9 trustees of the Shwe-Rigon Pagoda in 1897. There were all the volunteers managing the temples approved by British colonial government. Just most of them are influential and wealthy citizens of Yangon, and they are usually the older people, and so they do not vote for them. Through the people's recommendations, judged with only the interest and the influence of the Buddhism, and then approved it as a member of the Coca. Next one is about the Mandalay Pagoda in Mandalay. The Mandalay Coca emerged in 1909. Of course, they existed from the last traditional dynasty, but it's earlier than the Shurigon Pagoda. But officially, designated only the 1909. So during the Anglo-Burmese Wars, the trustees never left the temples, keeping the amazing Buddha image, so which was captured from the Rakhine state in 1784. But very interesting point is that the Shurigon Pagodas, the member of the Coca in Shurigon Pagodas, they keep the same members. But in Mandalay's case, they changed 9 times from the 1999 to the 1938. I think that they have any problems or something. So, yeah, I need to research more about that. So. Anyhow, I have only 2 vacations after attending the NUS, so I have not enough time to the research and field works in Myanmar. So I only met the Coca in Shurigon. Yes, I will try to meet the next time the Mahamuni. So I only check the very official the mind book, the history book. So, and I didn't have the interview with the Coca in Mahamuni, so I will make up more. Then also the Coca was under by the representative of the Buddhist monks. Okay, so actually I want to write only the conclusion, because I don't have the conclusions. Only write only the what exam and only the plans for the plan. So my first attention is to collect and read the records of the Coca. So it's a historiography that has never been uncovered as far as I have scrutinized. For my further research, I'd like to consider 2 aspects. So firstly, what is the real role of the Coca under the British rule? I think the paradigm change of the so-called the patron-client relation of the Myanmar Buddhism can be recognized. The Sangha. Sangha is the term they're referring to the association of the monks. So in traditional period, the king and Sangha showed a close connection. The king gave the financial support to the Sangha, and the Sangha supported the king with his the legitimacy as a Buddhist king. But ordinary the laity maintained their faith in faith in Buddhism independently. However, after the British Burma, the absence of the king during the British colonial period caused the unstable condition in the maintenance of the pagoda to Sangha and laities. In order to make up for this, Coca appeared. So Coca promoted the active donation of the laity, and Sangha provided Coca with the guidelines for the various activities for the use of the finance and then fundraising in temple. Laity has come to the participating in activities that can build up their virtues as more closely than in traditional time. As a result, various religious activities were prevalent within pagoda. This has also led to the variety of the economic circulations in Myanmar in Buddhist temple. Yeah. So secondly, I can't estimate what kind of the economic activities existed around the Buddhist temple and how large they are in Myanmar. So I think the volume of the 2 temples is really great beyond our imagination. The first picture shows this one. So this one. The first picture shows the repairs to the stupa. Stupa is the center of the pagoda. So the lower part of the picture is a view of the Coca office. Yeah, this one is here, this one. At 10 p.m., employees at the temples collect donation boxes from all around the temple. The first picture on right, this one, as it shows the festival at temple. Actually, in Myanmar, they have the 12 festival in a year. It means that they have the one festival a month. Yeah. And and the last picture is this one. The last picture is of Myanmar, who is the ceremonial inside the temple. There are many different economic activities centered on pagoda, but I have divided them into only the 4 main categories: the maintenance of the religious building, and performing the religious events, and managing the religious market, and the hiring human resource. So the essence and the scale of the incidental economic activities, the resulting from this are very large in Myanmar. So I'm going to look at the big frameworks for the research. Yeah, this is very much the beginning step of my research. So this is the end of my talk, and so thanks a lot for your attention. Thank you.
So our final speaker is Dr. Hue Guan Thye from the Department of Chinese Studies, and he will be presenting on the evolution of the Singapore United Temple. So we have some people who have meetings they have to rush to. I'm sorry for that. But Dr. Hue has published the book I mentioned that we worked on together. He's also written on the history of Buddhism and Taoism in Singapore, and is currently working on a broader history of the spread of Mahayana Buddhism into Southeast Asia for a project at the Chinese University of Hong Kong Press. So please, Griffiths.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Dean. Many thanks to FASS Research Division, especially Wendy and the staff inviting me here. Today I would like to talk about the evolution of the Singapore United Temples. This is part of our field research project together with Professor Kenneth Dean in Chinese department. I would like to share 3 points. One is the Singapore Chinese Temple, the relationship between Chinese Temple and urban redevelopment program. Another thing is we need to find out the strategies how to survive in Singapore, and the concept of development of the United Temple. I will give you a brief account of this. Following the arrival and settlement of the Chinese immigrants and settled in especially in Singapore rivers, the needs of spiritual support and a permanent place of worship prompted the build a Chinese temple dedicated to the principal gods of the different religions of southern China. And however, none of these temples were able to escape from the last forces of urbanization that took place after 1965. Some of them disappeared from Singapore completely. I will not go into the detail of these articles, but this picture took from Professor Dean. Very important pictures. Some of them disappeared from Singapore completely. Most of the Chinese temples, they become the United Temple. We have research on 800 Chinese temples in Singapore, and most of them become the United Temple after during the past 20 to 30 years. How they survive? This is one of the options. Some of them they have to move together with the Chinese temple or the clan associations together, like this one, Jinmen Hui Guan. They moved from the Smith Street and after that to Ken Lee. How they move? The altar they move together with the clan association, and the other 3 altars are from other temples from Jinmen clan association, different parts. Then some of them they move together with the cemeteries, like this one, Heng San Ting. The Heng San Ting over here. This one over here. Then they move together with the cemeteries, and they move to the Bukit Brown, and become the new Heng San Ting, Sing Heng San Ting together. So because the government acquired the cemetery in downtown, so they have to move it together. Then some of them, how to handle the another option, let the deities retire. How to retire? Send them back to heaven. In this temple, Fudechi, like these temples, and downtown, Fudechi, Hakka, and Cantonese temples, they have total of more than hundreds of deities statues. They send them back to heaven, perform rituals, and burn them away. And they only remain 2 statues. Put them back at Geylang, red light district. Another one is send them back to their hometown. Like this one from Jinmen. From Jinmen, they send back to hometown, bring together their collection, Xianghuotian. Total of 200 Sing dollar back to Jinmen. Together, similar to this case, their survival strategy is send them back to hometown, retire back. Another one is the Jingfu Gong, similar to this one. From after many movements, they send them back to Jinmen also. Bring them back. If you want to send them back, you also have to bring money back. 800,000 Sing dollar. So the third option, you have to buy land from Singapore government, HDB, but you need to tender. Like this one, a plot of land in Central Road. Then Singapore Coca Association managed to buy this land for only 30 years. Another one, Singapore Coca Association again, 400,000 for just a piece of land. 4 million. This one 6 million. 又是他 again. Japanese Buddhist organization. And Hue Guan Thye from Taiwan. This one from Chen Tianlai. Another one, 10 million. 10 million. Thai He Guan, 6 million. So this land only for 30 years. 30-year lease. After 30 years, the land becomes zero. So you have to buy the land. If you don't have the money, you can't buy the land. So how you survive? So during the past 20 years, most of them, they had to tender the land. They had to survive. You have to pay the money for the 30-year lease. After 30-year lease, you need to build a temple, another few million dollars. After 30 years, become zero. You have to buy the land again. So one of the strategies is the United Temple. This is the first United Temple in Singapore, 5 combined temple. They been acquired by the government in Toa Payoh area, rural area. So because of the double cost of constructing new temple and purchasing a new plot of land were too expensive. So they find a solution. They work out a solution. They decided to merge their contribution from all their respective devotees and to collectively purchase a plot of land and build a United Temple. This is a United Temple concept. 5 temples within one building. So at each temple similar to like a shop house. You just go to the temple. This is Wuhe Miao. So they have different groups of like Hakka and Teochew, like Fudechi, by Teochew, Hainanese, different dialect groups. So this is the first effort in Singapore. They have different separate rooms, and they have their different deities inside the units. This is a total of 68 United Temple in Singapore so far, and we comprise with more than 300 sub-temples. This smaller temple, the most interesting one is a Tampines Chinese temple, Tampines Lianhe Gong. This is a temple which comprised with more than 13 sub-temples inside this building. They were all from the rural area, the small temple. The small temple last time in village kampong. Oh. So this one become a temple. The temple become a table. Actually, it's just a table. This is the temple. 1 temple, 2 temple, 3 temple. So when you go into the temple, actually it becomes Chinese temple. But actually the altar, like last time, a normal temple we have altar topic Kong or the other gods. But for this temple, each altar belong to 1 temple. Total of 13 temples in this Chinese temple. We call it United Temple. Now you want to go to the food court, you go Mirobos, Misian, something like that. You go to this temple, maybe I don't like this temple, I go to the center one, or something like that. It's a complicated issue. Like this United Temple in Tampines, they have to combine with 3 temples. They use their name to buy the plot of land from the government, but actually they can't afford to buy. So like for instance, this one, the Zhenlan Miao Guanzhou Tan, actually is combined with another sub-temple. We call sub-temple. Another Yuanlong Sheng Miao, also combined with another 3 sub-temples, with 3 small temples. Sun Shui Gong, Shui Ciling, sub-temples. So actually 3 layers. They use their 3 names to join together and buy from the government, HDB. But actually they comprise with 7 temples inside these communities. Now we developed to another kind of United Temple together with Indian Hindu shrine, more hybrid United Temple. Another one is Loyal Topic Gong, very famous. You have Malay Karamat, Datuk Gong, Hindu like Kanisa, and Chinese Topic Gong. Now how is the latest development? Because of the landscape issue, they built a religious hub. This one, they go into tender. They build they offer a plot of land. You build a religious hub, many layers. You can auction. You buy from them. Nowadays they will have United Temples in Ubi and Tuasing, and also for church. Churches also. I think this is my brief report. Your comments and suggestions are welcome. Thank you.